Welcome back to the LEC as Australians take their first victory in year 2022. Kobe, thank you so much for joining me. Congratulations. What an exciting performance it was. How are you feeling right now?
Hey, I'm feeling pretty happy, honestly. Didn't get to celebrate much with the team yet, but I think it was really good for everyone to just get a win. So, yeah, after a long loss streak, it definitely feels good to win a game.
How are your teammates celebrating after this first victory?
Well, I'm not sure. I got dragged away pretty fast. But as I said, everyone seemed happy, and especially Dior, since it's his first win in LEC actually. So I could definitely feel he was very happy, and he played really well too.
And this was a victory against a previously undefeated Rogue. Was there any change to how Australia was approaching the game from compared to the previous week? Because there was a very solid performance.
I don't think we changed too much. It's definitely easier to play right now when there's zero pressure on us. So everyone can play more loose, more chill. And I think that also, that really helps a lot, because normally if you go in against the #1 team 9-0 and you're really stressed and everything and put too much pressure on yourself, you're going to play worse. So yeah, we just took it like any other game. We have nothing more to lose really, so we just try our best every game.
Some of the possible criticisms towards Astralis in the previous weeks was that Astralis is able to get a goal lead ahead pre-15 minutes, but isn't able to always translate it during mid-late game. Has there been any specific changes around shot goal, especially in this regards?
For this game specifically, I think it was very free win after how the game went, but we also remembered that we did throw a lot of games earlier, so we decided to play it really safe. Considering our lead, we could have probably ended faster. But no, that's obviously what we're working on, because we have flaws in different areas of our game, and realistically looking at it, there were at least 3 or 4 games this split that could easily have been ours, that we just gave away to the enemy, right? And if we didn't do that, it would be a very different situation, rather than having lost so many games. So yeah, that has for sure been a big focus point for us.
Okay, and I hope to see Astralis continue to improve throughout LEC. One final question. What is your future outlook for Astralis? Is this more to come? Is this a beginning of a possible miracle run?
Well, I have to say yes, right? I haven't really been in this position before with such a bad start. But yeah, of course, I have to believe in it. But as I said, it's just about all of us are just trying to do the best we can and take it game by game. We know that playoffs is probably not going to happen. Unless it's a very, very low % chance. But yeah, we do our best every game, and we just try to get the best of it and hopefully come back stronger in summer. So yeah, we just want to have a good showing for the rest of the split.
We will certainly look forward to it, and we will keep eyes on Astralis. Thank you, Kobe, and I'll toss it to Sharks for the post-match breakdown of this amazing match.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Wonderful to hear from Kavi. I get that he's happy but not super elated, because obviously they just lost a bunch of games, but they brought this one home against Rogue, no less. I mean,
where's the Hemco in a different universe?
Yeah, it's hard to know who to be more excited for. Astralis for this incredible, fantastic win, or every memer ever for a suddenly fantastic thing. It's free content.
Yeah.
Really.
I mean, they were winning a lot of games in the past, but they never were able to close them out. Against Vitality specifically, they were winning. They never were able to win, but this time around, again, they get an early lead versus Rogue, and they just close it out so perfectly.
I think that's key, the fact that you could look at this game in isolation, but they have been playing well in the early game. It's after that it went wrong. But let's start with the early game here. The early invade from Rogue, Kadril. Imagine you're Malrang. You've had a segment made about you. They talked about you for 10 minutes, and then this happens.
Oh, he goes for the invade on the second red buff spawn. As he clears the pinks, he gets comboed, instant dead. The Leona E buffers through Larsen's dash there, takes him all the way across the wall, gets 2 kills for Astralis. And what this does is it takes away the Ahri ultimate and it takes away the Ahri flash, which unlocks mid lane for Astralis. It's a very good point to just play through, because Vex into Ahri, good setup. Jarvan as well. Larsen here, ultimate's not up yet, no flash, easy kill again. And once you unlock mid lane, what Astralis did after this, around a minute or two later, they're starting to dive bot lane. And if you're playing Janna Jinx and you're getting Dove, the map really is falling apart with so many options for Astralis.
And honestly, fantastic credit to promisQ, especially on Leona, both in this game and the game against Vitality. I think he's really been showing up, and he's a player who's received an insane amount of criticism. So it's really good to see him have a stable performance across multiple games, even if against Vitality, they ultimately couldn't close it out.
Yeah, we're going to bring this up again, this graphic.
If we just bring it up again, you can see their gold leads in their last 3 games, right, against Vitality. They're winning against Rogue in the early game. They're winning, but they're not able to close it out. Against SK, a big lead, but they weren't able to close it out. Misfits got a massive fight around the Baron, SK did, and then they were able to close out the game, so.
Graphic broke. The game was so good, the graphic just straight up broke. Yes, it's hard to look at this without also thinking about how comical it is that this is like the first game Rogue ended up winning, and that was the first that they lose, etc. But yeah.
I've learned at least one thing that helps them be better, and it's not Shox and Ashley in the studio, although we will also bring that up from now until the end of time. But not having an Orianna in the enemy team is big, because that misstep, it was one Orianna Shockwave against SK, it was Perkz' Orianna in the other game that made it so difficult for them to close, but Ahri, who is not that immediately reliable control range with infinite wave clear, made it so much easier for Astralis, and they could afford to make 1 or 2 mistakes as long as they came in clutch, and in the end, they still did.
So it's also hard to look at this from a Rogue perspective, because you don't want to go now, well, all those 9 wins they had, they mean nothing because of this, because that's absolutely not true. It does seem that, they took some risks because they have a big lead in the standings. They tried to go for this Ahri.
Yeah, and credits them for trying things, but I will say they do look a little bit vulnerable when, if you look at their last couple drafts where Larsen's playing Corki into Sona, he's playing Corki into these free lanes, scaling mages, getting so many resources against the TF, never really had a punishing lane phase. This game, the Vex counter pick into Ahri worked great. The second, Larsen lost a lot of his kind of utility, and Astralis shut it down so fantastically.
Yeah, maybe there's a segment in here, how to beat Rogue.
How
tomorrow,
to beat Rogue.
maybe with Kadril.
Astralis could give us a good lesson already.
Yeah, maybe we'll see. The Kia player of the game, Dejor, although Kabe said Dejor, so I'm not sure if we are pronouncing it correctly. In any case, really amazing. Your first game on the LEC stage, you absolutely outplayed Larsen, who's one of the best mids. That's just, in terms of momentum, it doesn't get bigger than this.
Fantastic, especially on Vex, a champion who has been super underwhelming so far this season. The fact that he showed up clutch, and yes, it has some favorable interactions to the Ahri, but the entire team setting him up to put Larsen down, and he did not take his foot off the gas. He kept applying that pressure throughout the entirety of the game.
Yeah, and we saw it in the later fights. I was a little bit skeptical around their draft with Graves, Jarvan topside, but the dive potential they had in the mid lane fight, in the Baron fights, was so fantastic to see, and the Zeri just kind of stacks up her passive from the ultimate while the fight's happening. You can see Zanzara jumps in. Yes, he dies, but the second the Vex lands onto one target and gets a reset, everyone can start to move forwards. Rogue has a sort of dive comp with Lee Sin and Ahri. They want to get on some kind of backline, but then again, the rest of them want to peel. You have 3 range champions, a Jinx, Janna, Jace trying to kite back, peel back, poke, and try to get a reset for the Jinx. The dive was just unstoppable for Astralis. The Janna had to cover way too many different angles, and yes, Zanzara goes in and dies a lot of the times, but the fact that he goes in and starts the fight is what they want.
Absolutely, and I think the fact that he stole that Baron in a clutch moment is incredibly crucial, and again, not that Kabe and White Knight did not play fantastically this game, but at the end of the day, jungle, support, mid, we know these are to be the 3 most influential roles across the map, and these are the 3 players to me who stood out the most on Astralis in this game. If they keep playing with this much coordination, I'm optimistic about future games.
More wins.
I think they'll play a lot of upsets. I mean, they've got a lot of losses on the board already. Yes, they've taken down Rogue, but they've still got a lot of strong teams ahead of them. Playoffs, maybe a little bit out of the question, but still, Kobe just said they're working towards summer anyway.
Yeah, I think 1 win at a time, but ultimately, I hope they feel great about this. I hope they can take this going forward, because it has been an insanely difficult split. And the fact that your first win is against Rogue, who were 9-0, we can't undersell that enough. It's really fantastic.
Fantastic win out of Astralis. And our next game is XL versus Vitality, rather. And earlier this week, Perkz joined us on Euphoria to talk about VIT's team atmosphere after the first half.
Having this great team environment, obviously, like the memes coming into this, and actually not even just memes, like we put it out there when we talked about it on the tier list, was like, look, tons of strong personalities here. Maybe this goes to shit. Sounds like it's going super well. Sounds like everybody's on the same page. I don't know, like...
We are trying to be. I'm not saying we all are, we always are, but we are really trying to be. So I think that's what matters. I can see everybody is giving their best,
Yeah.
And we are like, I don't think we're an honeymoon, like we've like already had a 0-3 week, and we also know each other for 3 months now, right? So it's like we are definitely trying now, yeah.
Do you feel like, in terms of, is this one of the more conflict-heavy team environments that you've been in? If it's not all sunshine and roses.
No. This is like pretty. There is not much conflict. There's just like a little bit of like. Honestly, it's like one of the least conflict teams I had actually, which is weird. I mean, like saying like the strong personality or something, but it's like from back in the days, I had like. kind of like doubts about Alphari as like a player.
Sure.
But after playing against him in NA this year, I mean, I feel like he's like became a much more, how do I say, team player in NA, or like stronger. Like, it was really annoying to face him, like Barney last year in NA. Like, he was always winning lane, and not only like, you know, there was this like from Misfits days, there was like, oh yeah, Alphari wins lane, loses game, you know.
Yeah.
And it was true. He wasn't good at transitioning leads back then, but I think his game understanding now is very high, and he's good at like leading us in the game. Like, he's good at like telling people what to do when nobody else is doing it. So I am very pleasant surprised with him as well.
And welcome back to the Cast of Days. Quickshot and Nightmare are going to bring you Vitality taking on XL. It's great to hear Perkz talking about the environment, talking about the way the individuals are approaching the game. And all that actually does is builds even more expectation and even more anticipation for one of the teams that was already considered a contender for the title.
For sure. And after that first week, there were obviously a lot of questions. It's great to say that they can see that they can kind of go through those turbulent patches and come out the other side firing all guns.
We'll have to find out today whether or not XL can surprise once again. For those that may have forgotten, last weekend took down Fnatic, and today another former teammate in the face of Perkz for Mickey to set his sights on. Let's talk a little bit about the draft. We're about to get ready for picks and bans. What sort of priorities or what lanes do you think are going to be the most important?
Okay, so for me, I think it is going towards that mid lane is where my eye is first drawn.
Super quickly, just to interrupt you, those first bans is a graphical error, and it will fix itself soon. XL banned Diana, Vitality banned Lee Sin.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense, trying to take away some of the tools to play around. Of course, Selfmade being such a strong player on the side of Vitality, that Diana has been power farming, power killing, power everything at this point. Someone who was power cording last week, though, was NukeDuck, because where I'm looking in this matchup is actually towards this mid lane and saying, okay, NukeDuck's done a trip around a lot of different picks. I don't know if he wants to settle back on something finally that he's played now, or if he's still going to be delving deeper and deeper into this pool.
Well, of course, we're on a new patch as well, and a couple of those NukeDuck champions are going to hit a little bit. Corki being the most popular. And it's going to be another first pick, Zeri, this time in the hands of Patrick. It worked for Astralis in the previous game.
It did. And we saw the skirmishing potential really come out in that game. It was a comp that was designed entirely towards skirmishing. It wasn't really about trying to DPS race something like a Jinx or an Aphelios. So I think we'd let that champion shine. Now we have to see if XL have learned similar lessons.
And of course, that Zeri was flanked by a ton of engage and dive. It was also into a blind Jace for the top lane, which is now being secured there, at least assumedly so, for Alphari. And Selfmade will need to find himself another option. Now, I think part of what got that Zeri ahead in the previous game was a lot of focus from the jungler, a lot of attention being given, allowed to be unlocked, allowed to play his own main.
Sure. So, talk about being allowed to play your own lane, play your own style. Perkz is going towards the Ryze. Now, I don't think I'm mistaken in thinking that Perkz has not played the Ryze this split. Now, we've seen, you know, what his legacy team in G2, and then also the coaching staff of G2 moving over to BDS, played towards this Ryze very, very heavily. But, I mean, Perkz was the person who this was based around for so many years. Picking that champion up, great to see Vitality having another option to go towards.
Want to confirm, this is the first Ryze of 2022 for Perkz. It is his most played professional champion ever with 54 games and a 57% win ratio. While we were talking about Perkz and Ryze, that is a Malphite and a Xin Zhao locked in, so it fits the bill as far as I'm concerned for that engage, go in and allow Zeri to follow up.
Hooray! Let's go Zerg rush the backline. And of course, stuff like the Ryze and the Jace, they have some ability to disengage themselves, particularly when you've got Ryze with Fimbulwinter, with Phase Rush. You can get away from one or two people heading at you, not necessarily when that person is a Malphite. That becomes very, very difficult. Now I'm wondering, of course, what's happening with... I mean, maybe we see XL pick up something like that Vex again. You know, NukeDuck hasn't actually played that champion yet, but I'm wondering if that would fit the team.
I mean, there was, in fact, one Vex game. It was obviously a loss for NukeDuck, and he's experimented with a couple of different mid lane picks. I do want to call out, I think the Trundle with the Pillar of Ice is really smart in terms of watching how those team fights played out in the previous game, as you continue to get chased down mid lane, you continue to get chased around the objectives. It is such a disruptive ability.
And what it also does is make Jace's life a lot easier. Pillar Slow into that accelerated shock blast gets very, very high percentage of hitting after that point. And Trundle, outside of that, great matchup into the Xin Zhao. You pop the ult on them, you run into them, you can fight them early. Lots of different ways to deal with the Xin Zhao. I love Trundle into that pick.
Okay, now let's talk about these bottom laners. What is the support that will be paired with Zeri in the bottom lane? Rakan's banned away, Yuumi, Karma, Thresh as well. And what will Carzzy be running into what will be a potential difficult scenario? One last ban here from XL. And what would you like to pair up here? Do you go more disengage, more safety on the side of Vitality?
On the side of Vitality, I think your options are fairly open right now. I think you need something which can start the fight off for you. I'm looking towards Leona particularly, or something like that. I think that's probably an easy lock-in. On the other side for XL, I'm more interested about what they're going to lock in as their support, because they already have that go button. Now, of course, most of your big speed-ups are now gone, as courtesy of the second-round bans from Vitality. So like Zilean support, actually not awful if it's a weaker lane locked in by Vitality, however.
I mean, I know Kadril is very high up on the Zilean right now, and Carzzy's going to lock in the Vayne.
Okay, all right. So now my initial question is, all right, Vayne is really good in these dueling situations, something that Zeri wants to be doing more of, a lot of these strong skirmishes. I wonder if you flex the Zeri away from the Vayne at this point and say, I ain't dealing with that. Maybe you put it into a solo lane.
Into the Ryze or the...
I mean, the Malphite's already in. I reckon you put it in there. And I mean, XL on the same page.
It's going to be the case. It's going to be the case. Okay, so Aphelios is now locked in, and we're going to assume that Nukeduck will be running that Zeri in the mid lane into Perkz.
Gotta assume, because when you lock in a Vayne like that, when there's still some flex potential, I mean, Vayne is not a stellar 2v2 champion. That would certainly be a pick to kind of really punish that again. Very low range from the Vayne. You do not want to be diving into an Aphelios with anyone that can help them in that fight.
Oh man, and again, a little bit more. Lots of AoE, long-range poke, long-range engage ability. Mickey, by the way, has played 3 games of Lux in the LEC. It was in 2019 summer. He won all 3 games played. So I'm excited to see this one back into his hands. And of course, for XL's team composition, relatively speaking, kind of easy to understand here. You've got your front line, could be used a little bit defensively, but you want Zeri and Aphelios to get all the way ahead. And there's your Leona.
But what I don't get is, why not lock the Leona earlier? I know that support counter pick can be quite important, but feels like a little bit of an oversight for Vitality. Maybe they had a different read on it to me, of course, but I look at that Vayne being locked in, I think there are a lot of options you can flex away from that.
Maybe Carzzy's feeling confident. Maybe he can play around the somewhat predictability of that unstoppable force. Now let's zoom out and talk about how these two team compositions are, first of all, going to be ideally played and then meet up against each other.
Okay, so what we're looking for from Vitality is kind of similar to what we saw in that last game, where they want to start picking people off around the fringes. You do have, of course, the Vayne and Leona who will start zeroing in on targets. Ryze Realm Warps will help to that end in a large way. So I'm looking, once again, similar to that last game, fight around the fringes. On the other side, Aphelios Zeri, you're winning the damage race. That is decided. You need to make sure your battle lines are set, turn up to an objective first, force them to come into you. Very easy play.
Let's find out if they can do it. Jumping into XL versus Vitality. Welcome back to Summoner's Rift as Vitality are already on the move. Got themselves 5 players stacked up, pushing towards the bottom lane. Labrov is going to go on a little bit of a mission. Patrick could be in trouble here.
Oh, it's the tri-brush. Don't stand in the tri-brush.
Well, Patrick's going to run for now. Zenith Blade catches him, holding on to that cleanse. The flash is now used. Flashes forward from multiple Vitality members. First blood picked up by Causey.
Okay. Try not to stand in that tri-brush at level 1. You can stand outside of it. You get better vision of people rounding that corner. That's a very easy level 1 to pull off. Vitality abuse it though, and now you've got a kill on your Vayne. This bot lane looking not so certain for Excel.
Well, very difficult start now for Patrick on that Aphelios. Causey, on the other hand, got himself 2 long swords to rejoin the lane. Vitality, well played. I mean, kudos, you know, making an educated guess and committing to it. I think it was 1, 2, 3 flashes in the end, or 2 flashes, and it worked out.
And I was going to talk about cleanses because team comp identity and stuff like that, but actually after this flash was blown, you can see Selfmade's got Hex Flash. Now, because you've unlocked this so early into the game, that opens up potential for really strange Hex Flash over the wall jungle paths. Just keep an eye out for that.
Ooh, that is definitely juicy, and Selfmade going to be very, very comfortable trying.
He's doing it. He's going to Hex Flash over the wall.
Okay, where is he going now? Holding on to that level 2 point. If we look at the mini-map, the wave is somewhat
this
pushed
is so unfair.
towards Patrick and Mickey. No flash available for Patrick. If he goes further forward, problems could arise. Labrov, flash forward, Pillar of Ice, Zenith Blade, and Patrick is dead to the bees. A second kill secured for Causey.
I hate how cruelly unpredictable that is. I hate it so much, but I mean, Selfmade turning up to play. It is going to lead to a red from Marcoon. This is going to be the Trundle very far behind, but losing this much XP early, this many waves early, and giving 2 kills over to your lane opponent, that is rough.
And not only just your lane opponent, but on a Vayne, a champion that has the ability to completely take over. It's pretty ironic that we prepared some of these numbers. We were wanting to look at Patrick versus
Look at
Causey.
what could have been.
And look at the kill participation, damage per minute, etc. Causey, statistically speaking, relatively low. It feels like today, every time I bring up a graphic, action will take place. Alphari pushing forward, gets caught out by the 3-pronged strike, and Marcoon will get the first hit for Excel.
Okay, so that's going to be just that follow-on effect of the very quick decision-making from Marcoon to end up on top side, but the Hex Flash has been charged again.
Is indeed!
Every lane's being ganked.
Nukeduck got caught out. He's still got that flash available to him. Rune Prison locks him in place below 100. That time flashed away finally.
Okay, so every lane felt the brunt of these early plays. Vitality coming out, swinging in bot and mid. And now Selfmade going to once again use that that rune to really, really high value. I really appreciate the creativity coming out of Vitality's jungler. And now Excel, who I thought had a very intriguing way about how they approached the draft, particularly those picks 4 and 5, have to play against an early game deficit.
Gigantic at this point. 900 gold. Of course, Causey hasn't been able to spend that money to turn it into combat effectiveness. And on the first back here for Nukeduck, he's actually going to pick up the Cull. So
no way is he going to do it again.
Play that one out. And I wonder if that's a bold choice, because look at the setup from Vitality. Nukeduck gets caught in place, and despite the fact Perkz doesn't land the Q, it's yet another kill to Vitality.
Okay, so your player of the game is now actually just Selfmade at this point. He's found so many ways into this early game, so destructive on the Trundle. This is, make no mistake, the strongest part of their game. They do rule the level 1 to 3 mark, and bot lane is using those levels at the same time.
They are indeed. The focus from Vitality is Mickey, but Patrick is wailing onto Causey, finally turning the damage back around, and Labrov will not be able to pick up the kill just yet. Focusing the support means they don't block the damage, and that's another for Excel.
Okay, so with some return fire in the bot lane, gold still obviously on the side of Causey's favor, but Patrick very importantly picking up that kill. Alphari, some reason down here as well, pushing the salt into the wound.
Look at the top lane. That's because Perkz managed to go all the way top to catch the wave that Finn was pushing in. In actual fact, Perkz is now moving to challenge Finn, putting some harass down, and all of a sudden, Causey now finds himself in the mid lane. So we need to keep looking at the minimap, trying to evaluate where Vitality are moving their resources. And Nukeduck will avoid the wall for now and manages to escape. But that was very nearly a condemned stun.
Okay, not quite there on the geometry from Causey. Very close. Pixels off. And Nukeduck uses that that dash to get over the next piece of terrain, and you can see exactly what Vitality have identified about this composition. Very quickly unlocking everyone from their lanes. Lane swaps galore. Bot lane is currently in mid. It's allowing Labrov to get across the map. Selfmade's already doing that by himself. Vitality, this is poetry in motion.
Yeah, it really is. It's built them up a 700 gold lead. In fact, they've conceded a couple of kills, and that XL are farming relatively okay. Small advantages for Vitality's mid and bottom lane. The thing that'll be interesting to watch is whether or not XL, once they gain access to their ultimates, can actually set up some skirmishes. With so much movement around the map, Vitality cannot afford to be out of position.
Yes, and actually this early game might work against them in that regard. You can see how quickly everyone is setting up aggressive plays. Dive in the bot side.
There is indeed. Selfmade is only level 4. He's got his flash available to him. Alphari gets chunked down. The Pillar of Ice will slow XL on the aggression. The minions being fought, being killed, being removed. Hammerform knocks Marcoon away. He tanks 2 turret shots and a 3rd. Patrick finds a double kill on the Aphelios.
Exactly what we were saying. Vitality, yes, they've managed to break up in the map in very intriguing ways, but that's not something that XL suddenly can't use themselves. See, how they went about this is going back straight into the start of this dive. Notice how XL don't pick up aggro very early. Patrick actually uses his uses a 3-weapon switch on Aphelios, gets rid of the Gravitum ammo with that last proc of the Binding Eclipse, gets full value out of that Duskwave, and Aphelios really bursty at this point if you're using their weapons well.
It's such great play from Marcoon, tanking the turret shots, like the communication and the understanding of how that dive needed to play out worked perfectly, and just like that, XL now have a very minor gold lead, and the bot laners, the AD carries, are both looking strong.
No, and this is such an interesting game because both of these teams are now being put on the hot seat saying, okay, this has just happened in top lane, what are you doing on the other side of the map? Again, it's the pop quiz. You just got to make sure you're dancing, and it takes 2 to tango. Another invade actually from Marcoon, using the Xin Zhao's early gold to make sure they're getting up in the face of the enemy jungler.
Yeah, pushing in, trying to find more opportunities. No flash yet for Nukeduck. Labrov holds on to the potential engage. All the gold is accumulated in the bottom half of this map, and very different approach to the early game. Mickey will find the double light binding, throws the prismatic barrier out for a few seconds, and Labrov gets chunked to 300, sidesteps the Q from Patrick, and Nukeduck will fire the spark. Perkz will not be able to get caught out just yet, and Vitality looking for a turnaround. Keep your eye on the river. Finn's making his way up. He's got level 6 as well. Labrov is low, forced to flash this time round. Does Finn take the shot? So much damage onto Carzzy. He's burning away, and Finn hasn't yet found his man. Carzzy escapes with his life. Nobody went down.
Serious trigger finger discipline from Vitality. They hold on to their summoners long enough. They do give up the Herald, but that could have been a crushing play from XL. Just about avoided by Vitality, but XL putting Vitality over the flames.
They are indeed, and of course, this Rift Herald will be now uncontested and goes the way of XL. They survived the onslaught, and these team fights, individual skill shots will be make or break. We saw
100%.
Everybody running away in the river. Finn had been there just a second earlier. If somebody had been caught just a moment later. But for the time being, XL, very minor gold lead.
Very minor gold lead, but they have a Herald. They also have a Herald with an Aphelios, and in a map this broken, when you're not necessarily adhering to the lane assignments that you would normally see, you get a Herald onto an Aphelios with the right weapons. That's almost 2 turrets gone at that point. XL have a chance to very explosively increase the amount of finances they have in pocket. On the other side, though, Vitality not slowing up the pace themselves, going towards the bot side of the map.
Yeah, of course, that is potential gold. Requires XL set it up to execute correctly. Dragon will go the way of Vitality as XL are pushing the top lane. Just a quick note, Alphari picking up a small CS advantage over Finn, and no teleport for Alphari, whereas Finn has his available. The way the team fights or the skirmishes have played out, that could prove impactful as members of Vitality making their way north through the river.
Okay, so now we've got ourselves potential of a collapse coming in. Mickey playing blocker in the river. It's potentially a catch now on the other side.
So much damage onto Perkz. The Hex Flash will be retreating for Labrov. He's level 5. No Solar Flare yet. Good damage coming out from Alphari. He turns onto Finn, chucks out the hammer. Now all of a sudden, it is Vitality that will need to bounce it back. as they are under some pressure in the mid lane.
Under some pressure in the mid lane, but Alphari's putting down the pressure himself. Has the new Hex Drinker, of course, was buffed on this patch. More AD, more of Malmortius, a much better item in general. Alphari actually a threat of really crushing through this Malphite in the side lane.
Yeah, of course, Malphite's value is really just going to be to allow Nukeduck and Patrick to find their shots. Selfmade steps forward once again. Perkz lands the Q, but no W.
Well, that was rude.
Yeah, there's no support from the rest of XL, so Nukeduck just steps away, and XL are going to be happy with this. Every time Vitality take a swing and miss, it is allowing the carries of XL to build up their itemization and just look for a fight that they want on their terms.
Yeah, serious congrats to XL for rolling with the punches and throwing a few of their own. They have another option to do that down here. Yes, we mentioned that Hex Drinker already. Labrov's on site. Potential pick still to happen.
And Alphari and Labrov going to get jumped on. That's going to be another kill here as Labrov is secured by Markoon. The tower plates continue to be hammered down on, and the game is now turned around. The approach of see hero, kill hero from Vitality has been absorbed by XL, and they are now managing to poke holes in Vitality's lane assignments.
XL very plainly ask, want to see me dive bot? Want to see me do it again? Pulls it off in exactly the same place. Different people involved. Kazi able at least to trade something topside, but getting aggressed on by Finn.
All right, Finn's going to use that unstoppable force.
No matter.
Kazi is going to be in so much trouble. He's used the condemn already, down to 100, and Finn with the solo kill. He waited for the E to be on cooldown and said, good luck, bro. Kazi gets dropped. Once again, we are established in the mid lane. Labrov still no ultimate available to him. There's going to be support here from Mickey. The engage from Markoon, looking for the knock-up. Not going to find it just yet. Nukeduck is trying to find the damage as Alphari finally gets Markoon. Now turning back around to Nukeduck. He flashes away. Labrov gets sniped down with the final spark. And Perkz and Alphari still continuing the fight. They've got some range, they've got some CC, but it's not working out just yet.
Not quite yet, and you can see how close these fights are. Summoners being used sparingly. Lots of kind of secondary engage. That pick CC being used at the end of fights, which everyone is being so wary of. Nukeduck right at the end, actually, using that cleanse to get away from Leona. Going to see, of course, how it starts now. Perkz pushing up, and you think, okay, all right, 3 people in mid lane. We know how that's gone for the rest of the game. Surely there's going to be a fight. But this time it's actually both solo laners from Vitality coming. You think, actually, jungle support from XL. Surely they don't have the damage at this point. Gens are very strong at this point in the game, though. Labrov, not for the first time, ends up a little too deep, but at the end of it, still ends up in a 1 for none on the side of Vitality.
Yeah, just a
1 for 1.
Little bit of split target focus, I feel like there is. Some damage was split between Markoon and Nukeduck. It allowed Nukeduck to flash away and get to safety, and quietly, XL are building up a 3,000 gold lead. They've got themselves a very, very high damage duo who are both farmed and or fed in Nukeduck and Patrick. Now we need to see how they can press this advantage, because for the moment, they've been punishing Vitality's mistakes and diving bottom lane, pretty much, and it's worked.
It has been proactive plays, yes, it has. I mean, yes, it has been Vitality kind of showing the openings, falling prey to their own creativity, shall we say, in the early game, allowing things to become a lot more unstructured than they would personally like. Vitality having a coalescence of members on the top side, XL just matching.
We literally keep holding our breaths every time these champions get even relatively close to one another.
Quickshot is actually buzzing.
This is every single engage. Mickey's going to look for the Q. Kazi will be able to tumble himself away from it. Teleport is available for Finn. I keep looking at that in case he's going to join the fight. Instead, he's pushed out that bottom wave. And with 25 seconds until the Dragon, you have to feel that XL want to push these waves out, potentially set up for a fight around that objective. We're only 15 minutes into this game.
It feels so tense already. You can feel like everyone is ready to pull the trigger on everything. Of course, we have mid lane priority coming in from the side of XL. Look for the weapons which Aphelios has. It's going to be very important to track those. Severum currently going to be very important for trying to deal with these lower range threats from Vitality.
Alphari being pushed a little bit away from his jungle as the 4-man stack of XL push in. Nukeduck gets jumped on by Selfmade's got the damage, got the chop, got the subjugate to find a solo kill of his own. But that will be at the cost of the Dragon. It does look like Markoon's inside the pit.
There's okay now in the mid lane. See again a bit of a counterpunch from the side of Excel. They don't have anything like Herald and inventory to go towards it. Patrick also not going to be engaged on by Lebron. I think he's been bitten too many times this early game so far, but Vitality managed to open up this top side, get an elongated lane. That works for their Vayne, that works for their Jace, that works for their Ryze too. Have to see, of course, if they can capitalize on the Herald. They pick it up.
They do indeed. Marcoon is going to be able to make his way back to safety. The rest of his squad pushing forward in this middle lane. 2 towers secured for XL, 1 to Vitality. This should be the third here, as Vitality aren't close enough to defend it. Gold lead still stepping just a little bit further forward. And what an interesting start to the second round, Robin. I think Picks and Bans, first of all, is already so much.
It's sure something.
To discuss and to ideate. Secondarily, the style of gameplay, I think I loved Selfmade and Vitality's approach to the early kills with that Hex Flash, the creativity. But then maybe they got a little bit lost in the chaos. And as the game stabilized, it was XL that were able to come out ahead.
It's like they had the first steps of this planned out, but then they just lost a bit of the rhythm getting a little bit later. As we said, actually, as much as it breaks open the map, it's not like XL couldn't use that themselves. Now, what I'm interested in seeing is how these first turrets being taken in the mid and then the top side, actually, for the side of Vitality, like affect this game, because you do have some champions which want to run down people on an elongated phase of attack, and Vitality finally have a tower of themselves to maybe get some vision into the enemy jungle. However, losing their mid lane to outer turret themselves is not going to help them in that same regard.
No, going to make it very difficult. XL have grouped up time and time again. That Rift Herald is dropped, and 1, 2, 3 members of Vitality in this bottom quadrant, but it is matched by XL. They're cross-mapping in the top lane with 3 of their own, pushing towards that inner turret. Alphari's going to make his way to try and challenge and contest this wave. It does look like second tower here will fall in favor of Vitality.
Okay, Finn might be able to have some threat on the tower with an ult, but tower's already gone. No Herald to push the anti up even further, but Vitality have the first foot forward in this race of towers.
Both teams have just agreed to make the map more open, right? So obviously cross-map plays have resulted in that, and that'll just make more dead space, more darkness for these kill squads to roam around. And I feel like we may not have a kill for a moment. I just want to quickly remind everybody of what happened last weekend.
Yes.
When Team Vitality played against Astralis. First of all, they were down a significant amount. They only had 1 kill at 14, deaths at 14. And with the context of Astralis' game today, it makes it a little bit different in meaning.
I was about to say, like, wow, they had that, they won with that deficit against the best team in the league, the title of the, okay, well, not quite, but they have the unofficial little glory bout at this point. Mickey hanging over the wall in the mid lane.
But the thing is, you hit the 2 points that I wanted to follow up on. Number one, they won the game from a significant deficit. And secondly, with Astralis just picking up a win today, maybe we need to look at them a little differently. So for Vitality, we know they have the ability to come back, but they cannot afford to keep conceding towers or objectives or kills, and maybe they want to challenge here, turn their attention onto Finn. If they group up, that ultimate will get fired, and keep your eyes, Nukeduck making his way to the team.
Yes, but then actually Nukeduck looks like he's just clearing out for now. We don't have a Baron just yet, we don't have a Dragon just yet. We have ourselves some time to reset, and I guess going back to actually kind of doubling down on both of these performances, right? The game we saw before and the game now, it feels like the question that has been posed to the LEC in general over the last year or two has been about cohesion. It's not actually been necessarily about star power. You can't do without it, that's one for sure, but 5 players on the same page has always outweighed, at least for the last few seasons, a few shining stars. And XL, credit to him in this game, seems to be pulling out that kind of edge of the bargain again.
Yeah, that approach, at least, I think, for the 4 members on the bottom of the map. The only reason I say that, Finn has been relatively left alone on a side lane. Level 12 for the moment. Got himself 1.5 items, and Alphari still relatively quietly farming up and towards completing his second. So I want to see how Finn gets introduced to these team fights. His perks will throw down the Realm Warp and Unstoppable Force and the Flash. Finn's going to find himself in the face of a Freljordi and Trundle.
Not even enough.
Here goes the Subjugate. Perks is throwing out the damage, and everything was thrown down, but can XL find something back? Patrick, Mickey, Nukeduck not going to be able to chase further. So Vitality find a cheeky kill, and once again, us closing this gold.
This is probably a good moment to say, that's not a tank Malphite. He's got an Everfrost. Did not have any ability to last longer in that fight and get his teammates to him in time. Okay, Finn has the teleport, doesn't have the flash or the ult anymore, though. Vitality, that gives them a lot of options to go towards the more dangerous skirmishes. They don't have to worry about the unstoppable force flying over a wall.
Not just yet. Baron is up, Dragon is up, mid outer as well. But if you look at the minimap, none of the waves are truly set up. Selfmade forced to flash away. The final spark, as well as the Moonlight Vigil from downtown. Patrick picks up his 4th. Now he's going to back away. Do XL really fancy a Baron here, Namira?
I mean, they threw out the Mega Infernum Bomb. It landed true. Selfmade down, no smite. Seems like it's an easy sitting Baron.
Okay, that's 4 members inside the pit. Nukeduck making his way, and there's Perkz with a potential flank. No Realm Warp available to him. Labrov does have that Solar Flare, and Mickey trying to zone away. Baron down to 9,000 is not the fastest. Flash over the wall for Markoon, trying to find the knockup as Labrov managed to flash away to safety. Fires out that Solar Flare as Alphari is being chopped off by Nukeduck. Finn looks to finish Vitality. 1, 2, now 3 kills coming up shortly. That's yet another for Nukeduck, and finally taken down by Markoon on Xin Zhao. 3 more in the bank, and they go back to Baron.
Markoon, tip of the spear at the start of it, tip of the spear to kill off the Vayne at the end, and Vitality, they know that they can't let the Baron go for free, but they wait long enough that it's on XL's turn. Finn comes in with the ultimate, finishes off the fight. It is going to be an objective trade, but I feel like this has to be in the favor of XL.
No doubt about it. Gold lead in their favor. Baron empowered minions. The second Dragon secured here for Vitality. The thing is, the time it takes to play these team fights out, there is the possibility that Vitality could turn. They do have a lot of damage on their hands, but the trigger's pulled first by XL.
Yeah, and this is what we've got to know from Markoon. And he's adapted so well to the LEC stage. We've mentioned the fact that he's actually fairly new to this level of play, and he looks like he's so at home against this team of such well-regarded players. He makes maybe the game-ending play.
And can they close this one out? It's still so close. 22 minutes in, 17 kills, and 3,500 gold lead, maybe 4,000-ish. But we haven't seen the fullest commitment to Sidewaves unless it's pure crossman, right? Every single time Finn tries to move a wave forward, Alphari's there to catch it and shove it back, play that little ping-pong game. When Vitality use the Herald and commit down bottom, well, XL willing to match.
So now you have to have Vitality respond to the map now for maybe the first time. They're not the one, again, leading this dance. XL have been pushing the ante up further and further, and now XL, they time their waves, they force a response in mid, they have the waves stacked on bot. It's a free turret for them.
Yeah, I really like it. Deep vision inside Vitality's jungle, grouping up the potential engage tools. Mickey going fishing with those Qs. Now, of course, XL do need to avoid any of those accelerated shock blasts that can come from Alphari's Jace. They're not going to stick around further than that. I actually hadn't noticed myself that Finn was not with the team just yet. Gone back to farm up, and now once again, XL going to look, push a wave, look for an objective. The only thing really is going to be standing this mid in a turret.
He's with them with spirit. He's cheering them on, and he's now actually joined them physically too. Has the ultimate, has no flash. Hex flash away from Labrov. That's definitely the direction to be going. Watch out for those Trundle pillars again. That can add some degree of uncertainty to these fights.
And Nukeduck's not with the team. As soon as he shows, which I think he is, allows Vitality at least a moment in a numbers advantage. XL will get the tower, they'll back away, and now push this next wave in. Vitality are hungry for a fight. You can sense it. They're stepping forward onto the stairwell. Realm Warp is available, and Finn is now flanking around. Patrick takes a chunk from the AoE of Perkz. Tower's getting hammered around on. Perkz gets jumped out. Markoon not going to be able to find any further damage, and Perkz escapes. This will allow the Inhibitor turret to be the focus.
It's okay. So now, with Perkz back, but with the teleport, there is a chance of a flank TP. They're going to go for it. Gearing up, but choose not to pull the trigger.
I mean, there was a ward there from Vitality immediately behind XL's roster, but no one around to follow up. 6,000 gold is the lead for XL. They got the tower, but they did not get the inhibitor.
I was a little bit, I'm still getting used to the observers. I saw the camera movement, like, ooh, surely there's a fight coming, but not to be at that point, but you have to start wondering, actually, Vitality feels like you're just passively bleeding out at this point. What actually gets you back into this game? Where's your agency gone?
Well, Leona, followed up by Realm Warp, I think, is going to be the... I don't want to say Hail Mary, because I don't think it's that far yet, but it is a significant advantage in the hands of XL. I'm going to look themselves into Perkz. Realm Warp starts to get channeled and interrupted. Finn gets his second of the game, shuts down Perkz. What is there to play for? Not a huge amount right now.
And I love how Nukeduck just uses everything that Zeri is known for in the side lanes too. We actually haven't had a great chance to see that because Vitality have been the ones pulling in, really throwing the punches out in those side lanes. XL, though, very quickly shut down that ideology from Vitality.
Very, very quickly. Perkz was only briefly across that center line. He got taken out. And as we mentioned, because of the fact that there wasn't a super close timer to any one of these big objectives, still a minute from Dragon, 2 from Baron, I had assumed a little extra vision would be placed, and it seems like a couple of XL wards around Vitality's red buff.
It is a Christmas tree. It is completely lit up.
And it obviously tells you that they do not want to concede that Baron, or that might be the next item to play for. I mean, if you put yourself in XL's shoes, how do they get to the Nexus? How do they close this game out?
So I think the main thing is just avoiding Vitality using that Realm Warp in particular for closing off isolated members. I think with the Leona too, that becomes very dangerous, and that's the lose condition. I think there are more win conditions than lose conditions for XL because of the size of their lead. It's just trying to avoid Vitality's bread and butter of what they need to do in this late game. They can take any objective they want, they just need to make sure that they're in position to respond to the Vitality's counterpunch.
So all those wards are going to be so crucial. Vitality, by the way, have pushed out that northern quadrant, and they've grouped up towards the top lane. Perkz very nearly level 16. Teleport is up. Realm Warp will be there soon. And then notice a second Dragon now falling. Only 2 apiece. Nowhere near Sol. Doesn't feel like it's going to be in win condition for a little while. Instead, we may have a good old-fashioned Baron dance.
Yay! I love those. We get to ruminate on life, the universe, and League of Legends. As Kazi has built up Blade the Ruined King, that's probably an important thing to mention while we're waxing lyrical. Corpse Blade was buffed this patch, we didn't see the pre-show. We went over quite a lot, actually, of the items that were changed in some way. Black Cleaver, much stronger now, more AD compared to that, towards that HP. And in particular, that Blade, going back towards, I think it's the 12 to 10% on melee to ranged percent HP damage. Actually quite good for cutting through a lot of this front line on the side of Kazi.
On the assumption he has enough time to do so.
If he's not dead, yeah.
Because his counterpart, Patrick, has already got the Lord Dominik's Regards completed. By the way, Perkz very clearly pushing this bottom lane. For any old school fans, this is a little bit of a Jizuke cosplay. When he also played that Ryze as a giga split push threat, especially when he on Team Vitality were behind in gold. It ends up costing Perkz his life once again. Vitality starting to get surrounded. Multiple members of XL moving their way to this middle lane. 35-second death timer. This is going to give XL all the time they want to set up vision.
Okay, but it is 35 seconds, but you also have that teleport. You also have that Realm Warp. You still got most of your arsenal ready and available for the side of Perkz. Question is Markoon once again going to find his way into the fight?
Audacious charges forward. Selfmade's Pillar of Ice will buy some time. Finn is still pushing that bottom lane, but Vitality showing the proper respect. They need 12 more seconds for Perkz.
Okay, but that's also Trundle ult gone. Very well played from Markoon to go in, bait that out for actually honestly very little. Now they can reset. Try it again. They haven't lost too much of their HP bars, but Vitality have lost a key fighting tool.
They have indeed. The mid and top for XL starting to group. Perkz is back on the Rift. Teleport is available to him. And for XL, they are now once again in the driving seat. They are pushing Vitality into their base over and over and over.
Okay.
Perkz is very clearly the target. Jumped on, dashed over, and Nukeduck is looking to find the final hits of damage. Perkz is running for his life. No flash up, and Nukeduck gets yet another get in their head and punish Perkz. Now Markoon jumps forward, forced to flash away, in fact, as Alphari and the rest of Vitality chase. Loverock goes all the way in with that Zenith Blade. Costs him his life, but manages to pick up Markoon, and here comes Nukeduck. Alphari is going to die! All of a sudden, Selfmade's the last man standing. Patrick with the chakrams rips Vitality apart. Stays alive a couple seconds longer as Selfmade is able to find that killing blow. 4 members of Vitality are down. 3 members of XL are down in a crazy engage in the mid lane.
And XL finally pulled things apart. There's a Malphite heading towards the Nexus, but actually pulling off with Selfmade dying. Still don't think it's going to mean the game, but XL find themselves a crucial fight.
I mean, at the end of the day, that was a 4v4 in the middle lane. And Selfmade will be able to escape for now. Inhibitor was taken down in the bottom lane, and we are just having non-stop brawls. That is what seems like is defining our day of games.
It absolutely is. And of course, this starts off with Perkz getting caught again. I know we mentioned, you know, the elusive Jiizuke, but the thing about a player like Jiizuke is that he would also coin flip so heavily in their favorite points and come out with the most crazy of plays to win his team those fights. Perkz hasn't really found an angle into the game where he's had the room to use that Ryze short-range brawling potential. He's always been the one that's been hyper-focused down. Vitality really struggling to enable their mid lane on the map.
Oh, and that means they are continually on the back foot, continually playing defensive. There are some significant CS advantages for Vitality, of course, because they've spent so much time catching those waves. Mickey catch out Labrov. There's the accelerated
Teleport
shock blast going forward, and Mickey gets taken out. Perkz teleports into the Baron pit. Finn uses the unstoppable force. Now 4 versus 5. This is an opportunity for Vitality.
Okay.
Do they fancy a shot at Baron?
Well, they do have the Vayne at 3 items, large Baron DPS. You still got to be worried of Marcoon. Still got to be worried of the Zeri running rampant.
Moonlight Vigil is available to Patrick. He's got both the blue and purple guns. Realm Walk wins all of Vitality backwards, but the AoE damage from XL is massive. They find the first kill onto Labrov. Kazi's running for his life as Nuketek is firing over the wall. Everybody goes golden from the GA, the stopwatches, the hourglasses. Marcoon is down. Kazi stays alive long enough to take down XL's jungler. They find 2 kills at the cost of 2.
I mean, at the start of that, you're going into a 5-man Aphelios ultimate. Looked like an absolute horror story. They managed to come back around, but Vitality, are they out of the woods yet?
Finn's still got his ultimate. It's actually just become available. Perkz and Selfmade running for their lives. The zap tags Perkz, slows him down. Finn, does he find the target? Holds on to it for now. Seismic shot for the movement speed. While that's going on, Patrick is picking up the Dragon in the bottom lane. Another Q comes out. Nuketek stepping forward. Finn's holding on, gets the knock-up, and the final spark secures the kill. 20 kills to XL. 45-second death timer for Selfmade. Screw it, let's go Baron.
I mean, but then they see that there's not enough time to really go towards it before Vitality are there with fighting functionality yet again. Yes, you killed the Smite, but I'm not sure at this point you really want to be taking broken fights against the Vayne. It was okay early when you could shut down people fairly easily, but we can see what happens here. It was, again, creative use of the Realm Warp, seeing that a lot today. It's 5 people into Mega Infernum Bomb, the Infernum Moonlight Vigil. But it's not Kazi that dies. Kazi is the one that gets to zone out Zeri. Suddenly one of the damage dealers, although they don't die, is out of the fight. And Kazi, who spent a long time being under the boot of XL for most of this game, gets to really kick that off and kick him back.
I mean, unbelievable. Vitality were 100% on the same page. They end up getting punished for it. And after the fight concludes, it is a Dragon and a Baron to XL. They are now 1 away from that Mountain Soul. They've got another couple of minutes to siege. There's even super minions down in that bottom lane for another minute and 10 odd seconds. So XL, once again, they're in the driving seat. They have the tools available to them.
Okay, they are, but again, if they start to push in, you need to look for their lane assignment. Where are they spacing? Remember what happened in that last game? Very nearly did we see some comeback fights off of separated carries from their teams. Finn being the one separated now.
Solar Flare into the Pillar of Ice, into the Realm Warp. Finn stays alive long enough because of the stopwatch. He manages to use the ultimate to dash away to safety. Patrick and Marcoon open up the base, and again, they take the inhibitor turret in the top lane. Get the knock up there onto Selfmade. And where is the rest of Engage now for Vitality? They chucked it all at a rock, and now they are face palming as XL get away.
They're stuck between, turns out, a clock and a hard place. Double stopwatch. Finn buys so much time. The ult comes through, of course, unstoppable at that point. And yes, it's the right instincts from Vitality. Shut down the isolated member. You actually have a lot of hard seed to keep them locked in place, but I mean, that's just dirty tech right there, using the double stasis. XL get away from that free.
Yes, they do. I mean, cost a couple of ultis and summoners, but XL playing on multiple lanes with those Baron-empowered minions. Perkz forced to catch the supers in the bottom lane as Finn is once again locked up by that Pillar of Ice. Nukeduck is firing away onto Labrov as his cannon-empowered Baron minions are chunking down the inhib. Mickey goes pretty low, but he's forced to back away. No Realm Warp, no teleport there used, and Vitality, another inhibitor lost. They are falling further and further behind.
Okay, but they have managed to survive the bot inhibitors cooldown, so it has come back up, a new lifespan on that bot inhibitor. Vitality don't lose any Nexus turrets. They lose a lot of jungle farm throughout this too. That's one of the big follow-on plays that you, well, kind of that collateral to big plays. They're losing out in a lot of small regards. Question is that going to stop them setting up for the next objective?
I absolutely love when we have new kids on the show and they go, they didn't lose a Nexus turret. That is the silver lining of silver linings. I think that XL played that multiple lane push cleaner than we have seen on the previous Baron. And if Vitality don't pick a better target, there's no way they can come back. They are down 8,500 gold. There's a minute until the Mountain Soul. And it just feels like XL have got the tools and the answers to whatever Vitality are throwing at them.
They do, and they're doing it by the book now. Taking the jungle camps. No, you're not going to get that gold back. Vitality, again, being denied the resources in a very formulaic fashion. Vitality lack themselves the gold really to fight on even footing. They need to find something special, but all they're finding is poke right now.
Well, can Vitality hold the line? Mickey's going fishing, looking for a light binding. Not going to find the target just yet. Finn, Flash will be available in just a few seconds' time. Selfmade throws out the pillar. There is still a ward behind Vitality members. I'm unsure if it'll be able to be teleported to. No, now of course XL. Correct, pushing forward. Thank you, observers, for highlighting that one for me. Alphari's trying to find the accelerated shock blast. He gets some damage onto Mickey. Selfmade again, stepping forward. It is just a game of chicken. Who will blink first? Who will fire the first shot? And XL go forward. They jump onto Perkz, who had Flash available to him. It's Patrick that gets the kill credit, and Selfmade throws down the Subjugate, but he's being melted by the Zeri Aphelios combo. Inhibitor will now be the target, and 4 members of Vitality pushed back into their base. Another Inhibitor will fall. No Solar Flare available, and Carzzy does have the GA. Does he go into the final hour and try get some damage down? Nukeduck is shooting away. Carzzy tumbles forward. Labrov finds a stun, but it's onto Finn. It's the damage dealers. They cannot get through the front line. Second Nexus turret now starts to form. Marcoon jumps forward onto Carzzy. Flashes away defensively, and Carzzy stays alive just long enough to get to his tower before the GA is now popped. 4 members of XL trying to find Carzzy as he flashes off to safety. Gets taken down on the turrets, and XL defeat Vitality.
Brings them to 5-5. XL level with Vitality. Not sure I would have been saying that today. I didn't believe it myself, but we've had a day of upsets.
I am flabbergasted.
That's a word.
And at a loss for words over the last 2 results. And the thing that I really, really want to highlight and appreciate is the fact that the teams that won did it proactively.
They did.
They caused fights. They were in the faces of their opponents, and ultimately that's what led to the victory.
And have to again kind of throw back to the very start of the game. Vitality with the Hex Flash jungle pathing. Loved what they did. But it wasn't the only... They weren't the only dancer in this routine. And XL picked up the steps, and they picked it up so well. Took them on a whirlwind.
Unbelievable. Kia Player of the Game nominees at LEC on Twitter. Marcoon, Patrick, and Mickey. I think for Vitality, their approach after that Hex Flash to moving around the map, interesting.
A little bit.
And may not have worked as they had expected. It's the day of upsets as XL take down Vitality to tie them in the standings. After the break, we'll hear from Nukeduck on his Zeri mid and this hugely important win. Whoop, whoop.